What's up, guys?
Popularity of video and audio podcasts has drawn attention to the value of good acoustics and the importance of soundproofing the space you record in. Large, echoey rooms make the audio hard to understand and difficult to listen to. In addition to the sound that moves to the camera directly, other sound waves travel from the point of origin out to reflective surfaces and back again. These reflections mix with the direct sound and distort the sound's clarity.
It's going to make for a terrible service, and then you're going to have to redo it again. So, like I told you.
The solution is to use sound-absorbing materials to capture reflections and prevent them from being recorded during the podcast.
Now, once you've oiled this, shellacked it, and let it sit for a couple of days, it's really important to put some wax on this thing. Now,
When properly installed, these specially designed sound-absorbent materials trap reflective sound waves, resulting in clearer audio for your podcast.
not a polyester one. You want to take a nice piece of clean
To achieve these results,
with the grain. You don't want to
we installed sound-absorbing materials to the ceiling above the workspace, to the wall behind the workspace, and to 3 movable sound-absorbing panels, which can be rolled into place as needed.
and then come back the next
Here's how to do it.
Just double check.
This studio space is framed with post and beam construction, so the first step was to construct a non-load-bearing stud wall between the posts in the back, and to run 2x4 joists between the ceiling beams to support the acoustic material above. To absorb the sound waves that would normally reflect off the ceiling, we are going to use Owens-Corning SOLSERENE residential fabric ceiling system installed in a slightly unconventional way. The system consists of a compressed fiberglass acoustic core, a fabric retaining track that suspends the acoustic core panels and firmly holds the SOLSERENE fabric over the acoustic core. The result is a finished monolithic acoustic surface that looks very much like a painted ceiling. Because this is an old post and beam factory building, we set 2x4 joists, 24.5 inches on center, between the old factory beams to support the sound-absorbing material, which is 49 inches wide by 8 feet 1 inch high. The first step is to attach the fabric retaining track to the perimeter of the ceiling area. Drill 1/8 of an inch pilot holes for the retaining screws, approximately every 8 inches along the track. This fabric retaining track is fastened in place with 1-inch drywall screws. When you reach a corner, cut the fabric retaining track at a 45-degree angle and install the track so that the mitered faces line up evenly. Continue to fasten the track around the entire perimeter of the area you will be treating. In a more traditional room, you would be doing the entire ceiling. Next, we install the acoustic panels by sliding the panels into the slots of the fabric retaining track. You can use the fabric tuck tool or your fingers to help guide the acoustic core panels into the slot. Fasten the acoustic core to the joists with drywall screws and fender washers. Tighten the screws until the washer just touches the panel, and then stop. Once the track and the acoustic core panels are in place, the next step is to install the SOLSERENE covering over the acoustic core panels. Drape 3 to 4 inches of fabric over the tuck tool and insert the fabric into the retaining track. Move down the length of the wall, keeping the excess fabric in the bag. Insert the fabric into the retaining track approximately every 6 inches. When you remove the tuck tool from the track, the fabric will be held firmly in place. Alternating from side to side, tack the fabric into the retaining track every few feet until the SOLSERENE is hanging loosely from the ceiling. With the SOLSERENE loosely in place, cut away the excess. Work your way around the perimeter with the SOLSERENE fabric tuck tool until the fabric is tightly tucked in place. When the SOLSERENE is tight, trim off any excess with a sharp utility knife. The finished surface has a solid monolithic look with very effective acoustic properties. We treated the back wall exactly the same way as the ceiling, first installing the fabric retaining track around the perimeter of the back wall, Next, covering the surface with 2 panels of fiberglass acoustic core and fastening each panel to the studs with drywall screws and fender washers. As with the ceiling, we covered the acoustic core with SOLSERENE acoustic fabric, stretched and tucked into the fabric retaining track until the surface is tight. The result is an attractive acoustic absorbing wall that, along with the ceiling, will trap reflective sound waves and help improve the sound of the podcasts. In the first part of our video on soundproofing your studio for a better podcast, we use the Owens-Corning SOLSERENE residential fabric ceiling system in a somewhat unconventional way to acoustically treat the ceiling and back wall of the workshop. This treatment absorbs reflective sound waves and improves the quality of the podcast. Now we're going to add 3 movable acoustic panels to complete the sound treatment project. We've built 2 already, and now we're going to build the third. Each of the 3 panels are framed with 2x4s, 16 inches on center, the same way you would build a stud wall. While wearing a dust mask and gloves, the first step is to staple the Owens-Corning QuietZone batting between the studs. The batting is secured with staples to the studs. Next, measure, cut, and fasten the fabric retaining track around the perimeter of both sides of the panel. The paper side will face away from the sound source, but you still want it to look good. The ends should be cut at a 45-degree angle so that the channels along the edge align. Flip the panel over and fasten the fabric retaining track to the other side of the panel as well. It's this side with the Corning QuietZone batting exposed that should face you when you make your podcast. Stretch the fabric across the panel and, using the fabric tuck tool, tack it into the fabric retaining track, working one side and then the other, evenly stretching the fabric across the surface. SOLSERENE is acoustically transparent. This special cloth is made from a high-quality locking knit weave, offering a fire-retardant, crisp, monolithic surface. When the fabric is tight, trim the excess material with a utility knife. The last step is to attach wheels to the panel so that it can be easily moved as needed. We've screwed 2-inch casters to each end of 4-foot 2x4s. We've fastened the 2x4 brackets to acoustic panels with screws. With the new acoustic materials completed, it's time to test the results. Roll the panels into place and set up your camera. You may want to experiment with the location of the 3 panels until the best audio quality is achieved.
Now, it's very important to know that when you start to put oil on this, you just have a rag with some light. You don't want to take a rag, a cotton rag, by the way, not a polyester one. You want to take a nice piece of clean cotton and go with it.
You will discover that your new acoustic room treatment will make a significant improvement in the quality and clarity of the podcast sound.